Oh, I love
Get
it.
this bread.
Alrighty.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
What's good?
I'm freezing my ass off.
Why?
I don't know, man. I'm just fucking cold. It says it's 73, but
What? You're a lunatic.
got a heater on my feet. I'm by this window though. I think this window just has a draft.
I set my house at 66. I'm on that.
That sounds like some white people shit.
Nah, that's came from the gutter shit.
66? Hell no.
My mom, growing up, it was like, I'm trying to remember if she would, I think it was 60. It was either 66 or 68. It was like, when it got cold, it was like, Brett, you better put a couple layers on, get a blanket, because that shit ain't going no higher than 68.
I think in our house it was 70, like 70, 71. I guess it's just supposed
Damn, y'all were balling, huh?
It's supposed to stay there. Like, don't touch it. If you coat something, you better.
If Mama Billy see that joint at 71, better fess up.
Exactly. Like, oh, that's funny. How you been, man?
Good. Like, just had a lot of transitions going on. My kids are coming back into school on Monday.
Nice.
So that'll be cool. And then missed out on tripling my money with GameStop, but it's all good. That was unfortunate. And but I got other things coming. I got a couple things on the horizon. There's this lithium-ion battery recycling company that I'm looking to invest in. It's like, I think it's technically a penny stock right now, I think. I don't know like how the listings and that stuff works exactly, but it's like it's like $1 and some change. But one of the Tesla executives was brought onto their board, and they're trying to connect with Tesla and General Motors and all the other electric vehicles to start doing lithium-ion battery recycling. And they have a patent for this stuff, where before, I don't know what the percentages were, but they have a patent that they can recover up to 100% of the maybe not precious metals, but the metals that that are used in the battery. So like nickel, manganese, lithium, like 5. And so it's kind of dope. It looks like projections are it'll be like $5 to $8 in the next like 6 to 12 months. Yeah.
Crazy. That sounds like a little hidden gem for sure.
Yeah. AMYZF for those that want to peep game. Do your fucking due diligence stuff for real. It's it's not gambling exactly, but like, it's stupid to go in blindly.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like a short thing just from like, even if it doesn't go as big as someone wants, if they've got a patent, they just go into one, right? Just with Tesla, that's going to take that company's stock, way up. So
way higher than $1 or whatever it is now.
Right.
Yeah. And so they have the patent. They're just they're kind of a smaller company, so they're looking to get like licensing deals with Tesla, GM, whatever, so that they can kind of offer up their patent and their technology to these larger companies that have fat stacks to blow. And then
that's the way.
Any licensing agreement, it'll probably shoot it up to $5 a share or more.
Exactly. And they don't have to do any more work. I love licensing agreements.
Yeah. Well, it was funny. I was doing some due diligence on this, and there was like articles by that like were interviews with the owner of the CEO of the company, who I think actually also started the company. It's Canada based.
Okay.
And then they've opened up a plant factory thing in Arizona.
Okay.
Read some articles, watched some interviews and stuff with him, and just seems like a rugged old Canadian dude that's probably just been in this game for 50 years.
Yep.
And, so he seems kind of cool and like reliable, but also the technology and stuff, that was really what I didn't quite understand before this. I didn't exactly, for whatever reason, licensing of patents and licensing in general didn't really like click in my brain. Because like I would watch Shark Tank all the time, and they always are talking about licensing agreements and all that stuff, and I'm like, okay, so I sign an agreement or something, and then, but for whatever reason, when I was doing my research on this, I was like, oh shit, that's what licensing agreements are, and that's why they're genius and powerful and so like useful.
Yeah.
Because basically you offer up your technology and people pay you for it. So they pay you to do it better than you can do it because you don't have the same like resources essentially.
Right. So you literally just pass it off. Like you don't have to usually. I mean, I guess it could be negotiated for, but usually, you don't have to bring anything new. You don't have to hire anyone. You don't have the cost of producing. You literally just say, hey, cool, I made this thing. And if you know what it's worth to them, you can negotiate it, pennies on the dollars, percentages, back end, I mean, all types of things. But you literally just collect money and sit back and do nothing, which is amazing.
Yeah. So that was cool. It's just like, I feel like that's just a silly example of how so much of wealth in general is just like you're just like kind of running through the mud every day, like just trying to figure something out.
Mm-hmm.
And like it took me like I've been trying to understand options on stocks, because like prior to like 6 months to a year ago, I didn't even know they existed. I didn't even know what that was. And like my family never talked about stocks to me. Obviously school never teaches you none of this.
Right.
And so it was all just like a brand new thing to me. And I was like, I felt like for 5 minutes I was kicking myself thinking like, if I had learned this stuff 10 years ago, your boy would have been a millionaire.
Right.
Crazy how this stuff works, and the way that you can like, buying options, put specifically like it's pretty much gambling. You're like unless you have some like hunch or some insider info that the stock is going to shoot up like GameStop, that shit this has just been flying.
Mm-hmm.
Tesla's another one that a lot of people have made like life-changing money off of. Like I was a couple weeks back, well, no, it's probably like a week ago. I was doing research on options, and came across this video where this dude put like in 2020, he did a like 400. So this was like at the beginning, probably right around when the crash happened.
Mm-hmm.
Crash, like when COVID hit, which is like February, March. He put a option order in for like, I don't remember. It was So the way options work is it's like it essentially allows you to, it's a contract saying, hey, I believe this stock is going to go up. But so because of that, I'm going to pay you a premium, like upfront, pay you money. In exchange, I want the right to buy this stock at X price, which is probably a lower price than, if you think it's going to go up, a lower price than what you think. And I'm going to pay you for 100 shares worth of that right now. That's what the premium is. So one contract is basically 100 shares, and it allows you to leverage. It allows you to leverage much more for much less money. And so this dude did like 4 contracts or something like that. I think it was 4 contracts. So it was like at like the price was, it was like for 20, he did it in 2020. The price, the strike date was 2021. I think January of 2021. And it was something like set for $100 or something like that. Maybe 150. It was like pretty low. And so what happens, essentially, he was able to get 400 shares at $100, and then he keeps all of the profit above that. So it ended up, it was like $400 he spent, and Tesla's obviously like, it's like $600-700 right now. So he got the 400 shares from plus the like 600 net that, so it was like several $100,000 this dude made off of $400. So that's I have yet to actually do that, just because I'm not ready. I don't have enough to gamble away like that. And there's no company right now that I'm like crazy about that I think is gonna like pop like that. Now this lithium-ion battery company, I'm pretty bullish on, because I don't see how it doesn't go.
Right.
Like, the only thing that will stop it is if the market crashes. And
which certain company, I would say, I was about to say, like, if it like that, Tesla will still push forward. That won't matter.
Exactly.
That's still take theirs up.
That's my thing, is I just don't see any reason why it, even if the market crashes, like it may dip for a while, but you just hold the bag, baby. Hold the line. Hold the bag. And
love it.
You don't lose money unless you sell,
Right.
So if you got that, that's one thing that I, like you have to be emotionless in stocks and shit. And it is real, like it's been a good experiment for me to like test my control of my emotions.
Mm-hmm.
It is, it's like I made a profit selling my GameStop because I wanted to change brokerages, because SoFi doesn't have a live ticker, and that just pisses me off. And so all the data I'm getting is like 5 minutes behind, and so it's just annoying as shit. So I'm changing brokerages, and I'm not going to Robinhood. Although I do like, their platform is just so good, It's so simple and straightforward. You can do everything. You can get crypto, you can do options, you can do regular shares. Like I'll probably end up going there eventually, but anyway, this stock specifically, the one that I wanted, this AMYZF, it's not uplisted, so it's only available to trade on like Fidelity, TD Ameritrade, and like one other one, E-Trade maybe. So like one of the big. It's like you gotta have one of the like OG trading platforms. But anyway, so I'm on TD Ameritrade, and so yeah, I mean, like this, it's I forget where I was going, but essentially, like it's it's a real good test of your emotions and how. Oh, that's what I was gonna say. So I sold and I made like $2K, right, in a day, $2,000, but I could have made $20K. And so I was like, I've been kicking myself for like a week straight, like staying up at night, just trying to like, and it's just like, I haven't been staying up at night, but during the day, I just am like, you fucking idiot. You could have tripled your money if I waited like 12 hours. But it's just like half of it, I'm like, part of me is joking with myself, but the other half is dead serious.
Right.
But like you have that sort of like wrestling match within yourself, but you can't allow that to manifest. You can't allow the emotional side to win and then like make you act in a foolish way. And so it's all been up here, but like it's tough.
Oh man, 12 hours. I love it. That's hilarious. No, you're right though. I think investing, business, those I always tell them, like, I try to either study or create principles for myself.
Yep.
Because principles I can fall back on, and I let the principles dictate my actions, not
exactly
my feeling about it.
Yeah. One basic principle for me is I buy on red days and I sell on green days. And like I don't waver from that. So like if it's a red day, I'm like, okay, I'm either buying more or I'm just letting it sit and I'm holding back. And it's not like I don't get emotional about it because I already have the principle set. Like, why would I'm not selling. I don't care. I'm gonna lose money. Like,
someone who's super wealthy was saying yesterday that he didn't name them, so I don't know who they are, but he gets financial advice from these two like Nobel Prize award winning economists, basically. He just like consults with them via email. And he was saying how like in general, if like anyone who's giving you advice either way, like, oh, this is it, is basically an idiot. Because he was saying like the best advice that he gets from people and all these like really smart people is it's always like, it just depends, right? And so like these award-winning economists always just give him like, oh, it depends. And the reason I brought that up is because he talked about something yesterday that kind of relates to what you're talking about, which is a lot of people, like you're kind of saying, you beat yourself up like, oh, 12 hours and I could have made 20K. And it's like, yeah, but what they actually told him is that overall, right, the principles went out. So like, for instance, if you're just like that person may have made 20K right there, but because they don't have a principle, they're fine. They're just jumping up and down. Like they could lose that or that's all they make versus like your principle, just this, and you missed out, but over the life you made more, right? Like, so they said it usually comes out to the same, or you make more with more just principalistic, non-emotional.
Discipline gets you way farther than anything else, really. Like, so if you set principles and are disciplined, and that's, I was talking to some people close to me about this and how it's like, if you just do a little bit of research, like I've probably been studying how this works for about a year, just because a few episodes ago I talked about how I was planning to do this as sort of like this is a side gig to make my money work while I'm working, while I'm doing my realtor stuff, right, and get ready to buy another house and go into the next thing. So, like it's a side hustle basically, but I don't work. My money works. And so I want to see. So I invested initially $1,000, like in October, November, and since then I've turned it into 10,000. Well, into 15,000. So like I kind of want to see how far I can go, and like if I can take 1,000 into, you know, 1,000,000, and see, and that can be like my come up, my story in my book.
Yeah, that's funny. I love that. Oh man. Yeah, it's funny. Yeah, the principles. That's the thing about the principles too, by the way, is that like the stronger everyone gets on principles, like my wife makes fun of me all the time because I just always say systems and principles, systems and principles, and stats and data and stats and data and stats and data. Like I just like it has to be like you got a system for it, and a principle to fall back on, because like to me I have to, or I'm gonna be out here like,
or I'll be lost.
I'm be running around with like a chicken with my head cut off like everybody else, and I can't afford for that to be the case. And so like, you know, you do have to kind of reset to yourself sometimes. You're like, fuck, I missed out on this. Like, no, I didn't. Right.
Yeah. Like, well, that's another thing that I when I was beating that part of me that was beating myself up, missing out on 20K, it's like, think about before October, November, when you got into this, think about the thousands of things that you missed before then that you could have caught, but you just didn't know. And so now I know. So, you know what I mean? Like I can't fault myself for being, you know, ignorant to what the opportunities were. I just thought, you know, my people close to me, my family, like the stock market was like, it's like, you know how in homes people are very like hesitant to work with electricity. It's like this taboo thing that people are like, I don't even want to bother with it because it's
get myself electrocuted,
because I don't want to get electrocuted. Well, I've done like minimal work with an electrician for, you know, like a year, and learned, you know, the basics of how electricity works. And it's truly the simplest thing. It's like connect the dots. And so if the dots don't connect and all come back to the circuit, like it ain't gonna work.
Right.
So it's just like, it took a very small amount of understanding and time for me to understand like the overarching concepts of the whole thing. And like the person that taught me was like a really, he was very good about teaching the principles and how to understand it, and not just being like, here, do this.
Right.
I mean, and so that was cool. But it's the same thing with stocks, where it's like, I had this, like, I don't want to say fear, but it was ignorance. I didn't know. I thought it was just like, you know, if Republican is a president, then usually it goes up, and if the Democrats are president, or, you know, have control of Congress or whatever the fuck, it goes down because they push corporate taxes, and the big corporations don't want that, and so they push back, and so the Republicans don't, and so they, you know, then it's, you know, bullish when the Republicans are in, because, you know, it's lower taxes, and so they, you know, love that, and they just buy, and shit flies up. And so I thought it was just that, but with almost everything, it's way more nuanced and detailed than what may be at face value, at surface value. And so you gotta educate yourself, and that's all. And I spent a year doing that, and I'm still educating myself. Like, I'm nowhere near a master, but I mean, like, the fact, and okay, you know, like, you could say I got lucky, sure, with GameStop, and like I made 12, 13, 14 times my money. Okay, like, I'll give that to you, and you could say that's lucky, but like, there was a lot of research and due diligence and shit that went into that. It wasn't just like you know, my friend told me, and I did it, and here we are.
Right.
You know, 15x to my money. It was
a
lot of research.
Yeah, usually luck is something that an outsider's observing an outcome as. Like, very few times is it actually legitimate luck, right? Like you said, like someone, oh, you just happen to be. It's like, well, no, like it was on purpose, focused concentration, research, and effort, and decision making, right?
I think it's luck is sort of like one. I think it's what people say as a way to sort of cop out of, like taking more, either understanding more or just like justifying themselves not participating or not, or missing out. Sort of, it's like a FOMO thing. It's like, well, I missed out, so I'll just say that you're lucky so that I feel better.
Right, because sometimes you'll hear people say, well, luck has a little bit to do with it, because let's say like Mark Zuckerberg, because if I wasn't born in this time, if I was born, 10 years later, maybe this would already exist. And it's like, no, because there's all these
Elon Musk was born 100 years ago, like he would have been fucking he would have done something else that was ridiculous.
Right. So and the reason that thesis just doesn't hold strong is because, okay, there's all these other billion people on the planet didn't create Facebook either. So like, what I'm saying? Like, and I think the actual saying about luck is when luck is when preparation meets opportunity. And it's like, that's the key. And so I think a lot of people look at that definition and still think like, oh, well, see, you're still lucky. I look at it and I'm saying like, no, it's like, it's kind of like poking fun at you. Like, yeah, luck is the preparation. Like, I've prepared for this, like I said, the study, the research.
I've been grinding. I've been working. I've been like, because I think every single wealthy, successful, famous person, if you like look into their story, you watch a documentary on them, there is always a come up. Mm-hmm. Like even here's someone that you might be that you could say like maybe was just sort of like popped up out of nowhere, like Post Malone. He dropped White Iverson on SoundCloud, and like the next day it was the biggest song in the world. Mm-hmm. But if you look into his life a little bit, and like, for like multiple years before that, he's been making music, been putting in, like, was just living in the studio working on music.
Right.
And then one just happened to catch. And so I think of it, it's like, it's like that dude that put $400 into Tesla a year ago. Like he could have, I'm sure probably in that dude's mind, he probably thought, oh, like it'll probably go to like 100, 150 and like, or maybe 200, and I'll make a decent amount of money off of $400. But the luck was sort of the magnitude of how much more he was able to get. So it's like he knew that, let's assume he knew that electric vehicles were the future.
Right.
And, how everybody's starting to, I'm sure GM announced that they're doing electric vehicles by then. That probably led it to it. He knew that Tesla was going to start doing these gigafactories and moving them to different areas. And he knew he probably had all this research and was like, there's no way Tesla doesn't grow from here. Even if there's a recession, even if the market crashes, like they're on the path to being huge.
Right.
And so so he probably thought, okay, stocks at whatever. It was, I think it was like 90 something then. And, now it's he probably thought, it'll go to 150 maybe. So that's a reasonable thing.
Right.
Like, sure. It looks like that's definitely possible. The luck is how it shot up to, almost $1,000 a share back, like a month ago. So it's sort of like the magnitude of the success that can be lucky, but like it still comes with years usually of preparation and that sort of thing.
Yeah, the reason that definition is ironic because, like, okay, so luck is when preparation meets opportunity. Is that, again, so we just talked about the preparation piece and all that goes into that, the decisiveness that has to go into that. But then opportunity is out for everyone. Opportunity has to be seized and acted upon as well. So it's like the whole thing is like almost, it's a joke. It's like it's basically saying you back to like there is no luck, right? Like now again, like you said, he doesn't know maybe to the how big it was going to grow, but he knows it's going to grow. That was it, right? His preparation tells him that. He makes the bet on that and he seizes the opportunity on that. And then he reaps the benefits of that, whatever they may be. Yeah. And I think honestly, that's a great metaphor for most people is that, and it, like I said, we were just talking about most successful people. Most successful people just do the preparation. Like, and that's where that kind of, for at least for me, when I was talking about like, I have to have the systems and the principles because that's what keeps me moving daily. Yes, like most people are trying to move for like, where's the lucky break? Like, I'm not looking for that. I'm just doing the system because I know the systems are what's going to like carry. And then when opportunity comes, I'm so proficient in my system that something good is going to happen. Like, that's what I'm like counting on. Someone just read a quote to me yesterday, and you may like this. So he a mentor that I'm paying $55,000 now, said a system is a set of things that work together as part of a mechanism or an interconnecting network, right? So it's a set of principles or procedures according to which something's done. But the quote is from a guy named W. Edwards Deming. And I love this quote. He says, systems under which people work account for 90% of the failure. Therefore, the key to success in any endeavor is to perfect the system. And I'm like, man, that's so true. Like, if you look at like anything usually fit, like why the team lose the game, like why anything fails, it's 9 times out of 10, 90% of the time, right? It's because the system failed, right? That people are working under. And so if you want to be successful in any endeavor, perfect your system. And that's why like I'm so big on like systems and principles and just like, so that when the opportunity comes and presents itself or needs to be seized, as well, because I think that's part of your preparation, right? Is being able to pinpoint where opportunity is. There's so many people who can't see opportunity. They just see, oh, that area is dead or this, whatever it may be.
You gotta be ready to attack.
Right. And so that's like
in the tall grass,
Exactly. So like to me, that's like the biggest thing you can do is just like systems and principles, just get in there and do those. And you're committed. Like, you think of like Michael Jordan or like those guys where they just like, they're just committed to the work, to the system.
What the system that pops up first in my head is Belichick and Tom Brady. Mm-hmm. Their run together at the Patriots was, and the way that they played football, their system so let's look at other teams. Other teams' systems are usually like, we do this. So like for the Chiefs, it's like we're fast, we spread you out, we go do a lot of side to side, and we're like throwing the ball around, right? That's their system. Well, if you play against a team that is good side to side and fast and like big, they can lock you up. Buccaneers did that to them. What the Patriots did, so that's just one example, but generally most teams are like, we hang our hat on pounding that football, stuff like that. Whereas, and especially in college, that's definitely true. But what set the Patriots apart and made them so good, and it's honestly blows my mind that this isn't like discussed more, but what set them apart was their system wasn't a set thing. Their system was, what's the other team's weakness? We're attacking that. So they had like a general, game plan. They have a playbook, they have plays, but like most plays in the NFL, especially, like almost every team uses. It's just a matter of formation, personnel, matchups, etc. It's generally speaking a lot of the same plays. Okay. Right. So the Patriots, what set them apart was each week for each opponent, they determined, okay, what's this opponent not good at? Or what do they struggle most at? Okay, we attack that. So like, I know for the Steelers, my family's from Pittsburgh. Like, we're a big Steeler fan. I'm not really, and my family really isn't that much either. But they're from Pittsburgh, so we like the Steelers. Patriots and Steelers was a big rivalry for a long time, back when like Steelers were not just trash. And by the way, like they went 11-0 last year. They had the easiest schedule in the league. Like they were the worst 11-0 team that I've ever seen in my entire life.
Yeah, but then they finished like on like a 5-game losing streak or something.
11-5. Yeah, they're trash. That's irrelevant. But anyway, in a lot of like the Steelers and the Patriots met in probably 3 or 4 AFC Championship games over the last 15 years.
Mm-hmm.
And in the regular season too. Anytime that they played, I know for a fact, I know football, I love football. The Steelers defense secondary has been whack as frick pretty much since Troy Polamalu retired. And even a couple years before that. And that, for those of you that don't know, that's like 10 plus years ago.
Yeah.
So anytime that they played, the Patriots would just dice up the Steelers secondary and they also had this, I'm not going to get too detailed, but essentially the Steelers have a defensive set they like became famous in Steelers defense is famous for the Zone Blitz, which essentially is like, I normally have like my set 4 guys blitz every play. It's like the big fast guys, whatever, defensive linemen. Well, the Steelers were like, let's fudge this around. And Dick LeBeau is the guy that invented it. And he's like, well, what if I take out one of the big guys and have like a couple extra big, but also athletic dudes. And they run, and then I have a little bit more versatility. I can sort of blitz, one guy from one side, one play, and another guy, mix it up.
Mm-hmm.
So that way it sort of keeps the offense guessing. And so that was great and revolutionary and awesome. But that was invented in like 1970. Now that the zone blitz is like a staple of the game, everybody knows that, everybody's seen it. The Patriots know what, like, the same strategy and the same blitzes and the same schemes they've been doing for years at the Steelers. They study that and they know it, and it's like second nature. So anytime that the Patriots play the Steelers, there's always you could look it up. There's highlights. You could watch. I'm sure someone on YouTube has made a mashup of highlights of Patriots versus Steelers. You watch it. Anytime there's a game between the Patriots and Steelers, there's some wide receiver that's just wide open. Like, it's high school. It's high school. Like, dudes, there's no one within 20 yards of a dude, and Tom Brady's just wide open and they score. That is because the Steelers defense was so like built on this scheme. And so the Patriots knew and understood the scheme. And once you understand the scheme and what they hang their hat on, what they always like to do, what their tendencies are, then you know exactly how to attack it and you win every time. And that's what, like the Steelers won 2 Super Bowls. I wouldn't say they got lucky in those games, but it's like, there's a reason that's the reason that Tom Brady and Bill Belichick are as successful as they are. And so for people that hate on that kind of pisses me off, because that tells me that you don't understand what goes into being the most successful at something.
Right.
they don't have something that they hang their hat on, right? There isn't this, like, they hang their hat on beating you at what you're worst at, what you're weakest at. So they can, it's like, think about that in a military sense. Like, if, go back 1,000 years ago, whoever hung their hat on, being like the biggest, strongest dudes, they would get beat by someone that understood their weakness. Right? Like, it's, it's a story that's been told for it's a trope of, like, human nature. It's like
boxing is a sport that's really like that still.
Yeah. So you can't have, I guess that's what my ultimate point is. Systems and principles is huge. In addition to that, you got to have systems and principles that adapt and that are aware and understand how things work. You can't just do one thing always, right? You can't just be in the same lane. Well, maybe not. You can be in the same lane, but you can't just do the same thing forever and think, like, 50 years ago, I could have been like, oh, I'm going to get a factory job and I'm going to get a pension, and, I'm going to work my way up through the corporate ladder, and I'll retire at 50, 60 or whatever, and I'll have my pension until I die, and I'll be rich. That ain't it anymore. You can't, companies don't give pensions. So you can't, you've got to adapt. You got to change it up. You got to do something different. And so, like, that's what I first thought of when you brought that up, was how their system is adapting to find the weaknesses in other systems. And so in competition, in sports, like, you are trying to find the weakness in the other team. But in business and in economics, you're looking to find, like, either a company that is, like, small that's going to be huge. Like, I think this AMYZF, I think it's going to $10 in 12 to 18 months. If it goes to $50, y'all ain't seeing me again. You know what I'm saying? Like, and that's sort of I've done my homework and done the preparation. I've adapted to this game. The game is find something that's going to be successful or something that you think is going to fail. Like, I'm sure there was a bunch of people that shorted Blockbuster back in the day when it was at its heyday. I guarantee there's people that shorted Blockbuster and then, like, got rich off of that. You can see tendencies and it's not a malicious thing. Like,
no, like you said, it's just a bet. It's gambling at the end of the day. It's just, this is what I think is going to happen, and I'm willing to put some money there.
I wouldn't even say it's not even a bet. It's just, this is the game. Some people are going to fail. Some people are going to succeed. Or, some businesses are going to fail. Some businesses are going to succeed. It's not like a personal vendetta. Like, I want them to fail. It's just like, I know tendencies. I have systems and principles set up. So when I see something that's an anomaly, I know, boom, that's a weakness. I can then make my move and attack it. So if it's Blockbuster, then boom, I can go and hit it, and I'll short it. And then when it collapses and goes, bankrupt and out of business, you get rich off of that. And I don't know, I'm guessing Blockbuster was a publicly traded company. I don't know for sure.
Yeah.
But, like, I'm sure a bunch of people made money off of shorting Blockbuster. But in the same way, like, if you were in early on Tesla, you're a millionaire now. You know what I mean? Like, so if you, it's just like you can sense and see certain tendencies once you develop and set these systems and principles. And so if you don't have the systems and principles set up, you aren't able to pay attention to the more nuanced part of the game. And it doesn't matter if it's football, stocks, business, economics, family, like relationships, friends, girlfriend, all of it. If you don't have systems and principles set up, you're too focused on the systems and principles and trying to piece together, oh, what should I do here and there and here and here, and because every situation is different. If you don't have principles set up, every situation is brand new, and you got to figure out how to act in that moment right then.
Right.
Have the principles set up, then you know how to act. Then you can just take the situation at face value and respond accordingly. And right. Like I said, it applies to all aspects of life.
Yeah, because principles, and that's what I love about them. And I think most people will probably get that wrong, but like a principle has to apply to all people at all places at all time. And it's regardless of belief. So like the principle of gravity, I don't give a fuck what you think about it. It's a principle, motherfucker. If I push you off that building, you're coming down and you're going to go push flat. Like that's a principle, right? And so you can, because I know that's a principle, and whether you believe it or not, I know it applies to all people at all places at all time. Now I can make like we make decisions off of that principle. Like that's super important. And so yeah, I think, like I said, if you have those things, if you discover or uncover or look for or find or learn those principles, it's so helpful to just like, again, making sure that you don't fall into your emotions with anything really.
Yes, yeah, exactly. And like for those that are, I think it would be good to kind of talk about where to find and how to create principles and systems for yourself. I know for me, its foundation was in like my parents' work ethic, in religion to begin with, in Christianity, and then it's just sort of like formed and developed out from there. Like there's one thing that I noticed was there's certain like for religion, every religion has a flood story, has a Noah story. Maybe not every religion, but like a lot of them have a flood story. And so the reason for that is a lot of people are blind and corrupted and don't see problems coming. And then when the flood comes, or when the Hurricane Katrina comes, the corruption blinds people to the realities, and then the dikes break, and then thousands of people die and are flooded, and the city is ruined because people are blind. So was Hurricane Katrina a hurricane, or was it corruption and ignorance and blindness and God punishing? You know what I mean? Like the more that you dissect and look at it and just look at life in general, you see those sort of patterns. And so the more that you learn, the more that you study, the more that you find those patterns. And so like for me, I equate Hurricane Katrina to a flood story, because I know that the dikes, the city of New Orleans passed a bill in 1950 or 60 something, saying that they're going to renovate and update the dikes, because the dikes only were able to withstand one storm that's 1 in 100 years or something like that, as bad as a storm 1 in 100 years. And they were supposed to be updated and completed by 1972. In 2004, early 2000s, only like 25% of that money was put towards fixing the dikes. So when Hurricane Katrina came, you're fucked.
Right.
And so is that a, is that a natural disaster, or is that blind, corrupt, and obviously the money was put towards probably their own pockets or something else that they thought needed more attention.
Yeah, I think it's both, right? Your question, I think it's both, right? It's a national disaster, but it's also a failure to operate and judge based upon principle. If the principle, let's say if I have a city and my principle is, hey, like I always tell people this about finances, like whatever money goes first, it has to go towards bills. Specifically for me, it's in this order: where the fuck I live, what the fuck I drive, and then the food I need to stay alive. It has to go in that order, right? So when people get money and they start spending it, or they want to pay off the credit card man or whatever, I'm so confused. Like because like for me, I based my principle on security. Like if I don't have a fucking house, like everything else, I will eat ramen, or I can go on water and bread if necessary and live, right? I can go a long time without food and live on just on water. I can walk, I can Uber, I can ride share. If I don't have a fucking house and it's winter, that's no good, right? So like my principle, so that's where my judgments come from. But when I start ruling and I don't have that principle, and I'm just feeling my emotion, oh, I'm really hungry today. Oh, I want to go out to a steak dinner. Or I want to go on a vacation. You know what I'm saying? Like you don't have that principle to fall back on. Same thing now, like say with a city, whoever is ruling and making decisions is not based upon like, hey, yeah, we haven't had some crazy big storm, but our first priority should be to protect our infrastructure, because if we don't do this, everything else falls apart anyway.
Oh, and by the way, New Orleans is technically below sea level.
Right. That's which is like you said, like this is awareness, right? So like that was why that was created. That's why back then they said, hey, we need to do this. Like, it doesn't matter. But people sit there and go, well, that's silly. We haven't had a storm in a while. Nope. See, now you've moved away from the principle. The principle is
so that I think that's that principle, that idea. It is both. It is a natural disaster, yes, because that happens in the world. Mm-hmm. But it's also, and I think that's the message of the Noah's Ark story, is the person that was prepared and awake and recognized that and listened and was aware to like what is going on, was prepared and was ready to go when the storm hit, and the story goes, saved all the animals and shit or whatever, all the things and his family and whatnot. Like that was, and like I'm looking at it like without the spiritual theological aspect, like just straight face value. That's the message of the story, is if you prepare when the natural disaster comes, you are prepared to deal with it.
Well, right, because in that story, right, it kind of goes back to what we talked about, the preparation. People don't understand how large the ark was. This was not like, oh, they built a boat, over the summer, over the first 6 months. It took him and his family years. I think I could be mistaken on this, but I think almost 7 years to complete like this undertaking. That's preparation. I don't know, like we said, it's just the waking up every day, we got to do this thing,
and it doesn't even matter. The point isn't whether it's real or not. It's more real than real. You know what I mean? It's like whether they really in real life created that giant ass boat is not, it's irrelevant. The point is that it took preparation.
Right. Yeah. And like the commitment to that, right? It just goes back to what we were talking about before, where you just like, you wake up and I know, right? And like people like to read Bible stories a lot of times, but they like to remove the human element. I know homie woke up them days and was like, I'm tired. Bruh, we ain't never seen rain. You talking about some rain, bruh. Like, because people were like, what are you, like, you got me building some shit out here. Like this big man got, hey, bruh, what? You got me building some shit every damn day. We done cut down every motherfucking tree in sight, like for some shit I can't. But like, what I'm saying? Like you just system and principle, like, because when
Let's change the podcast to systems and principles.
Because when the water comes in, everybody went, oh shit. No, you see what I'm saying? Like that, the opportunity's there now, but you're prepared for it because you just followed your system and your principles every single day, stacked up, stack up. I'm sure his boys was, doing other trades and making money on the GameStop of that time, with their funds, while all his funds going to you.
Whoa.
But you see what I'm saying? Like exactly what you were saying, like where it's like, where people are like, oh, I scored over here. And it's like, yeah, but so in that story, just like we were talking about at the beginning of this, who really won, right? Like, you got your 20K, but you got wiped out. We're over here chilling. Like, so yeah, I think it's super important. And yeah,
and so I think the point is, if you just live your life, if you just sit and think or meditate for a few minutes, usually there's a handful of things that kind of just like are popping in your head, like, oh, I need to do that, I need to do this, I need to do this. This is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong. This needs attention, or that needs attention.
Right.
If you train yourself to start paying attention and actually acting on those things, that's, for me at least, I think that's the first step in getting towards starting to create systems and principles for yourself. Because if you're like, one thing that I try to achieve is peace of mind. I want everything to be set and settled for the day, so that I can then like have peace.
Right.
I'm not like, oh, I lost 20K here, I could have made 20K, I could have, I could have cleaned this, I could have washed that, I could have done XYZ. I have things that are systematized and principles that are in place it's even down to the daily. Like, there's daily things that I do, daily systems, there's weekly systems, monthly systems, yearly systems, like all the way up.
Right.
And so the first thing to do is to start with the things that are bothering you. So like, if you have, if you have bills that are laying around that you need, to take care of, or like I don't know, like, or if there's a relationship that's off, that is just like eating away at you, like, call that person, talk to that person, try to like sort it out. And just once you start on the path, it's not a thing that's going to change. And like, this is the problem with the way that we think about luck. It's not something that you just like snap your fingers, or you just happen to come across at the perfect time in the perfect place and you got the luck. No, like, that person started to situate themselves and put themselves in a position where they're ready to take advantage of the opportunity when it comes to them.
Yeah, I mean, because it's like this, right? So I think you brought up a great thing. It's like maybe talking about, for people, how we create principles. This is how I recommend people do it, right? Because if a principle is going to apply to all people at all places at all times, that means that principle has to be based on fact, on truth, right? Because the truth doesn't care about your feelings. Fact is fact and truth is truth. So for me, when I'm trying to operate on principle, I have to go and ask myself, what's the truth about this matter, right? For instance, we've talked about before, like working out. I don't work out necessarily because I like it. I work out because the principle that governs my life is, we know it's like picking shit up and putting it back down that is heavy tears my muscle fibers. My muscle fibers say, I don't like that. Let's try to grow back stronger so that if that happens again, we can be prepared for it, right? We know that that's also good for our health. Okay, well, therefore, that's a principle where I'm going to get my ass up and go do that on the daily. Like, regardless of outcome, like, it's just go do that thing, because like that's based off of the fact. Now the system comes in is once I've defined that principle, that's where you as an individual come in, right? Because people can have different systems. Principles should, not everyone observes or honors the same principles, but that doesn't mean the principle is not there. Just like we talked about the principle of gravity. So the system then takes me into an account as an individual. Because some people say, okay, I know that's the principle. I need to get that done. I'm not going to wake up early in the morning and do that because this, that, and the third. Okay, cool. So maybe you get yours in the evening, right? But then you see what I'm saying? So I create a system that works for me to honor the principle so that we can get back, like if it's right, lifting weights and didn't get stronger because it's not possible. And so that's how I always try to figure out my principles. Like, what's the fact first, regardless of my emotions or feelings about it.
Yeah.
And that question, like positioning things that way, like is so useful. And you start to discern things, right? Where like someone says something, the other side, the left, the right, whatever you call it. And it's like, I don't know, let me go, we've talked about this before. Let me go figure out just what the fact is, not what the narrative or your fucking emotion about it. It's just what's the fact about this thing. Because then I can actually decide principle based. That's also why, like, oh, you're always right. It's like, well, I don't, you're looking at shit with emotion. I don't look at shit with emotion. I just like, I know that's not true. How'd you know that wasn't true? Because it just doesn't, like, it's, like I said, and I have a number, but I would probably say because principles are based in fact, there is a finite amount of principles. There's an infinite amount of systems because that's how someone may take action or honor, and systems get better, obviously, too. But I think principles wise, that's the way to go about it.
Yeah, for sure. Are you able to hear me?
Yeah. You froze.
Yeah, I don't know what.
That happened to me at the beginning. When we got on, I was frozen. But my sound wasn't, then it just like jumped. I didn't do anything. It just like fixed itself. Sometimes if you push the stop video and then you turn it back on, it fixes it. But
I think it's coming back. So it's not responding for some reason.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay.
Yeah, that happened to me earlier though.
Well, I'm gonna trust that it's still recording.
Yeah, it's still recording. I see it recording everything. You're just like your screen froze. Try pushing the stop video and then.
I'm not even able to open.
The app froze. Gotcha.
Yeah.
That's that Windows stuff. I told you about that.
Yeah.
You take some of your profits, get you on that Mac life, boy.
I guess. Now it's telling me to close the program.
Here, if you can, I was gonna say make me the host. You maybe even to close out and open it back up, but.
Oh boy. I'm back.
Are you?
Let's get it. Let's get this bread, kids. All right. I can't click on anything, but my camera's up, so we're good. I think I heard everything you said, and
the audio was fine. I think just the video froze up.
What up, Brand?
Hi.
She said hi.
I heard her. So I think we're good on systems and principles.
For sure.
I wanted to ask your thoughts on well, let me see if I can maybe I can do this via screen share. Probably not. Let's hold off. So it says it's not responding again.
Let me pull something up.
No, it's this specific meme that I saw last night on Twitter. It was like a drone. And
yes, I saw that.
On this drone, we believe. And it was like something like science is real. I can't remember all the things.